Hey everyone. So unfortunately, I have to re-record this video because I was lazy about charging my microphone, and I did a 1 hour long video, recorded one long video, 1 hour long, and found out that the mic went out 20 minutes in, and I should have known better. But I've done that before where if the mic light is red, I can still keep going, but not this time. So I want to cut to the chase so you guys know what this video is about first. It's about mean girls. It's about bullies. It's about mistreating and abusing other people. It's a little bit about narcissism, gossiping, evil tactics. Just for starters, gossiping. So I want you guys to watch this video so I had to let you know what's going on. But yeah, anyways, I learned a valuable lesson. And I was going to wait until tomorrow to re-record, but then I thought, I'm going to forget what I talked about. So I'm doing all right. I'm just very tired. I am not the person that usually worries about things, but the fires do have me worried, and I had all the reason to be. Our breathing, or what do you call it, air quality was the worst that it could possibly be yesterday. And I stayed inside. I had plenty of food, but for the last 3 days, I really was having issues breathing, so I've been using my inhalers, and I have a nebulizer if I need it. So, but I'm doing a lot better. I just think about all the people that have been affected. There have been whole towns that have been wiped out. You can go look in the internet. I don't have to be validated by anybody. It's all over, and it's very sad. Wildlife, birds, people losing their homes. It's extremely sad. And it's extremely dangerous. And it has the Mark 47 all over the place. Please just go look that up. So, mean girls, right? So mean girls, bullies, same thing. I want to concentrate on female bullies today. I don't really want to talk about male bullies. No offense to this young lady, but obviously surgery's an option nowadays, it wasn't back in the old days. A mean girl doesn't have to be a young, sexy high school girl or college girl. It can be anyone. It can be a middle-aged woman that has no sense of self-esteem. It could be your college professor who's a female. It could be a woman who thinks you're going to take her husband. It could be anyone. And then I just put this image in here for fun. It's kind of cute. To talk about gossiping, which is very related to a form of bullying, mistreating, abusing other people, spreading false information, or gossiping material that could hurt them. Malicious gossip. Now, everybody likes a little bit of tea now and then. So, as long as it's not hurting anyone, you're just a little bit curious about, George moved out of state, and this picture right here gives me a chuckle. And I have tremendous compassion for homemakers I do not think they had it easy back in those days. Everyone thought maybe it was an easy life, but I don't think so, especially for women who were being abused. And I'm trying to remember what I told you guys all on the last video that went into space. I had a great aunt that was, and she lived in town. She was one of those aunts, peeping out of the windows before internet. Yeah, there actually was life before the internet. And if you want to know who was doing what in town, just ask her. But she was a little different, but here's another one. Did you hear what Nancy did the other day? Oh, do tell me, dear. What did she do? Talking negatively about others only reflects your own bitterness. From an unknown source. Facts. Especially when you're trying to do harm to that person. You want to see them fail. You want to see them not do well. Whatever it is. What is triangulation? Triangulation is an emotional manipulation tactic where two people in an argument does not always have to be an argument. It can be anytime. Try to draw in a third person to change the situational dynamic. And I always say narrative because they are obsessed with the narrative, what other people perceive, with what other people believe, like what they think. It could be a husband who's cheating on his wife, or not necessarily cheating, but maybe he brings in this pretty girl from work to make his wife jealous and insecure. Could be a coworker who you get close with, and then the next thing you know, they're talking behind your back to another coworker to try to get you in trouble. It all stems from low self-esteem and feelings of inadequacy. It's not uncommon for people to unintentionally, I can't help but laugh. I can't help all this unintentional. There's a huge movement online to make narcissism, it's just not such a bad thing, everybody. It's just, dividing people, abusing people. It's not a big deal, everyone. To you, unintentionally, I would scratch that because they don't do anything unintentionally. To employ triangulation because conflict is difficult. Oh, everybody, did you guys know conflict is difficult? Wow. Right. They live for it. And uncomfortable to navigate. The goal of triangulation is to tip the scales of the argument, or I would say the narrative, like to control that. This is often through indirect communication. I would say maybe like an email or talking behind other people's back, like gossiping, with the third person being the go-between. I don't think the third person's always the go-between. You could triangulate someone and they might not ever have any contact with the other person, like such as the wife or the other coworker. I learned this many years ago when, amongst all kinds of lessons, I was around this person and she brought all her friends over. This is a long time ago. And all of them were giving me dirty looks. And I'm like, what? And then later I realized she was talking negatively behind my back. But also, too, you got to watch people that just take what everyone says with a grain of salt. You've got to do your own research, you know? Being the go-between of the two individuals initially disagreeing. And again, this is from a therapy place. They're trying to make it sound like, oh, it's not a big deal, everybody. It's just family. It's just family, everyone. Meanwhile, someone's trying to strangle you. Or, you know, just let bygones be bygones, you know, as he's completely ruining your life. And I want to add in here that I learn about all this stuff. I don't know everything. I learn about all of this stuff because I was abused for years by family members, by so-called friends, by workplaces, you know, people in the workplace, over and over and over. So, of course, eventually, you know, when the internet came out, then I started to, you know, that was, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago when I was learning about what it, you know, what all of this was. In my late 20s is when I started realizing that certain people only came around when they needed something, like, you know, help moving, or they need a ride somewhere, or whatever, you know, whatever it was. And then I added this picture in there for a whole lot of reasons. But she's giving you the evil eye. Anyone that looks at you like that does not have your best interest at heart, I can assure you. Anyone that has to constantly attack other people, whether verbally, even if they're attacking you in their own minds, that's a negative energy attack. It's negative. It's not for your benefit. But and again, anyone who's doing these things, they don't feel good about themselves inside. They have no self-esteem, no true self-worth. And obviously, my self-worth is not, and my self-confidence is not as good as it used to be for obvious reasons. But I don't go around trying to destroy other people, trying to hurt other people, trying to gossip about other people. I don't do that. So I don't think I'm a narcissist. Because that's always another tactic. Oh, you're the narcissist. And a lot of people, I find that a lot of people that are always what I would call like a narcissist denier, they tend to be more narcissistic in nature. So honestly, we can just throw that term narcissist, we could toss it out into the ocean, because it doesn't matter what phrase or what term is used to describe the behaviors. It's malicious, it's done to harm others, it's cruel, it's manipulative, it's destructive, harmful, and it could even, in the most extreme cases, turn violent. Prisons are full of that. People that have committed violent acts. Remember this. Selfish people don't care about you unless you are doing something for them. Facts. Facts. Like cleaning their clothes, like washing their car, like painting their rooms, doing manual labor, bringing their groceries in. It could be sex, it could be money, it could be giving people rides somewhere, it could be anything. But they would not have a use for you unless you could do something for them. Give them prestige, give them popularity, give them sex, give them money, give them whatever it is that they want. to show the world what an amazing person they are. When people treat you like they don't care, believe them. Facts. I would say, too, this is displayed in tactics or behaviors such as minimizing, one-upping. One-upping means, my experience was much harder than yours, or, they might even go as far to say, oh, that's not a big deal. I had one person years ago I was going through difficulties finding a good job, like a professional job. And I finally got one. And then when I got one, and this is when I was just starting to learn because of this and other individuals, first thing she said was, oh, anyone could get a shit job like that. Says from somebody who didn't accomplish as much as I had. And I don't have that many accomplishments, but one thing that I was able to do is be tenacious and keep my eye on the prize when I was going towards something. But it made her feel inadequate. And that was one of the first times that I remember consciously experiencing, it's called circular conversation, something to that effect. They just talk rubbish, doesn't make any sense. It's when you go through it, you're thinking to yourself, what is going on? But a lot of times when you're dealing with folks like this, you're not going to feel it or know what's going on until you get completely out of the situation. Because they will keep you exhausted. They will keep you fearful. They will keep you broke. Yeah, it's literally like having an energetic parasite around you. It's a fact. A lot of people that are around these folks get really sick. This is exactly where the video went with no sound. But, hopefully I can cover what I did the first time, I hope. Insecure people. Insecure people often talk about others to make themselves feel better. Yeah. They cannot exist unless they're putting other people down. Because somewhere, something in that person makes them feel less than or not good enough, which is called narcissistic shame. And the only way that they can fix it inside their sick minds is to put the other person down. And there's all kinds of ways they can do that. They try to put others down by pointing out flaws and mistakes. Yeah. I think of it years ago, one of the romantic relationships, one of my main ones. And the man was always telling me how ugly I was, how fat I was, which, if you guys saw a picture of me, please. But they have to have you feeling like you're not good enough and you're less than because now they're in power, like they're the powerful one. It's really evil. Pointing out flaws and mistakes. And honestly, you guys, most of the time when they're trying to point out your mistakes, the mistakes don't even exist. Or they'll create them. Like one I remember. Why didn't you go to pay the bills? That was one. This is a long time ago back in the day when I was in Germany. And you'd have to go to, in order to pay your bills, you'd have to either go to if you're in the military, you would go to, oh Lord, there was a place, I can't remember, but there was a special place you would go to pay bills. But honestly, it didn't matter because with people like this, it's always a setup. It's always a setup. And if you ever notice, they're always going off on people. Or you have the person that you might say is a little narcissistic. They're more vulnerable type or more covert. They're really quiet and calm, but they will constantly, and I personally think a lot of, especially men that are in this situation where their wife is dehumanizing them and degrading them. I think that's where a lot of, it's definitely coercive control, but it also would be considered very questionable when they pass away. Because people that are like this are very well known to drive people to their unaliving or simply just abusing them until they end, because their bodies just can't take it anymore. Through verbal attacks, they attempt to hide their own weaknesses, facts. And in the narcissistic circles, that is called narcissistic shame. And people that act like this were probably in, no, I think 99% of them, maybe my statistics are all the way off, but a lot of them were abused. And that's where all these very unhealthy behaviors came in. I do think there's some strange, there's some very unique cases that the child was not abused, but usually there was some type of abuse there, where they create these dysregulating ways of dealing with things or emotions, which I don't think they have the same kind of emotions that we do. It's much different. If you ever see, like you might call a narcissist or narcissistic tendencies person, or I'm trying to remember what Dr. Ramani says. She uses another term. But anyhow, when you see them start to yell or scream or especially cry, I think a lot of them are fake crying. And I really do believe that. But the ones that do appear to be crying, it's only because they are losing narcissistic supply. It's what the person could do for them. It doesn't matter. Like if the hot babe leaves the abuser, he's going to cry, "Oh, babe, I love you. I need you in my life." But it's because he sees her as taking away his narcissistic supply or whatever he can get from her. And it would be the same, with a woman, etc. I'm trying to focus more on women, but just using that as one example. They believe that hurting others will increase their self-worth. Yes. But in reality, it only reveals their insecurities, facts. Because anyone that has low self-esteem or value for themselves and is constantly going around putting other people down, including their children or their so-called friends that they talk behind their backs as well, you don't feel good about yourself, period. Period. Full stop. True strength comes from building yourself, not breaking others. Facts. I happen to believe that our society, or I would say even our societies, because I feel like we have a lot of miniature societies that are like amongst each other, kind of operating independently. I believe our systems are built on these bullying, manipulative, and oftentimes psychopathic ways of being. Even just the hierarchy alone that's abuse. The whole pyramid. Signs of lack of empathy. 1, monopolizes conversations. I am extremely tired, you guys. 1, monopolizes conversations. Disinterested in you, yeah. And I also feel like what my experience has been, and I've been through this unfortunately too many times, people that are doing this, monopolizing the conversation, they have to prove to you why they know way more than you know. They're smarter about, I'm just going to use generic things. They're smarter about business, they know everything, but yet they're broke. They know way more about marriage and having a family than you do, even though they've never been married. They want to tell you about a certain type of religion that is the best of the best, and you have to do that or else you're not a good person. But it's always about, I know this much and you know nothing. I mean, I'm just using that as an example of the monopolizing conversations. And universities are full of people like this. Medical establishments are full of people like this. The social work world are full of these people. But again, I always say, watch what somebody is doing off camera, and that'll tell you a lot about who they are. Okay, guys. So number 2, indifferent to your successes and suffering. Facts. So I remember when I graduated college, I don't know, maybe one day I'll tell the whole story, but I don't know. Let's just say at the end of the night, I went home by myself and drank beer. Now, I did have friends that would have supported me at the gym, but I was not happy. The following weekend, my niece did take me out. We had fun, so that was okay. 3, difficulty regulating their emotions. Yes, and I really wished I had to re-record this, but it's important to remember a lot of times people that have difficulty regulating their emotions, it's from trauma. So we can't automatically say that narcissist or sociopath, accuse people of being that when their emotions are dysregulated. But for me, and I've studied this for many years, I would recommend for you guys to go and see some of the videos that Dr. Ramani and Dr. Janja Lalich did together. They were really amazing. In a comment, I told them they were my 2 favorite doctors, which is true. But yeah, so indifferent to your successes. So that was my situation with the graduation. And then the suffering, I'm going back to number 2. The suffering, they don't care. They do not care. If you try to explain the hurt and pain that you're going through in a situation, they might minimize it. I know I use that word a lot, but that's one of their favorite things to do. They will one-up you. Now, it's not the same as you explaining, well, yeah, this thing happened to me and blah, 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 because you're relating. One-upping goes a further step to negate what you're going through and to make their situation more extreme. And just because someone says something, how do I say this? It's the intention behind the statement they make. If they're trying to make your situation that it's not a big deal, then that's minimizing or invalidating your feelings. 3, difficulty regulating their emotions. I would also add in there that might be rage comes in, or fake crying, things like that. Number 4, self-centered, one-sided relationships. Yeah. If you ever been around these kind of folks, you will see people around them exhausted. And a lot of times people just simply don't know what's going on, but they are emotionally exhausted and physically exhausted. They really love to mess with your sleep too. But each bully, whatever you want to say, narcissist or abusive individual, they all have their own ways of torturing the people around them. 5, disregards your boundaries. Yep. Say you tell someone, I go to bed at 8 o'clock every night, and they make sure they're going to call you at 9 o'clock to see if you're going to answer their phone. And usually you will find that they will continue to call you until you answer the phone. They have to break that boundary. In fact, to them, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And back in the old days, before we had cell phones, they'd probably show up at your house. Yeah. That's just one example. Trying to break your boundaries is something that they enjoy. They like, that's a challenge. And I would say in here too, I'm going to use one example. They love to manipulate time. So if they tell you, oh, we're going to meet on this day, Saturday at 12 o'clock, they're going to intentionally be late just to make you wait. They can't help themselves. They have to keep doing it. Or one of their favorite tactics is to just cancel at the last minute. But years ago when these things were happening to me, I just finally said, and then I finally went no contact. I was like, I kind of see what they're doing, and I had to do a lot of research. I did a lot of research. And I shared some videos on YouTube back in those days before, everything was so complicated now. But I was putting 2 and 2 together that this was some type of manipulation. So anytime they would cancel, which was a lot, I would just be like, oh, okay. And then I would go out and do something fun. Of course, that bothered them, but it's got to be now. Let's see. I'm counting in my head. About 10 years ago. Yep. 6, won't compromise decisions. Must favor them. Yeah, they always have to be right. It's my way or the highway. You don't even have the right to think something can be a certain way. You don't have the right to your opinions or anything. I had one of my dates from hell, which I might explain one day. I don't know, maybe not. I'm not sure. And honestly, I broke a lot of my rules, which was a bad idea. This guy wanted to choose what I ate for dinner. Bad idea. And it didn't go anywhere, and he turned out to be kind of what I would say sort of a stalker. And fortunately, I wasn't in danger, but he was off, and that never went anywhere. But that was, let's test her out. It's called the narcissistic test. Okay, 7, never apologizes. Yeah, we all know that. Even myself, sometimes I don't apologize, but it depends on the situation. If I've done something wrong and I was kind of out of favor, or I said something that was kind of mean, I will say that I'm sorry. But I've learned after a lot of years of study on this, these, various things, user type people, bullies, narcs, abusers, perpetrators, that to apologize to them is just like a power control. So majority of the time I'll be like, they'll look at me and be like, where's your apology? And then I just look at them crazy like, and I did realize not too long ago after dealing with one person that anytime, it was like a real epiphany for me because I made the mistake of talking to someone that I should not have talked to. And then they blocked me on social media and my phone with no warning. But it actually turned out for the best for me. But the epiphany that I had was that a lot of the folks within my family group, I never did anything right. They never had anything nice to say to me. And it took me how many years for that to come to me? It was wild. It was like something that you see on a movie, like you feel on a movie, and then all these scenes in your mind come to you, and you're like, wow. And then I was thinking to myself, I'm like, was I the black sheep? Just made me think. 8, lacks responsibility and regret for hurting people. Yeah. They never take responsibility. And they're good for ricocheting off back to you like, but you did this. Or they'll create like a story that doesn't even exist to say that you did something that you never did. 9, very critical and impatient with people's emotions. Trying to see what else. And problems. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And one thing that they've got down to a T is criticizing people. You've never seen people good at criticizing people like these dysregulated, bullying, abusive people. Ten, unaware of their impact on others socially. Yep. And funny thing is, when I was looking for signs of lack of empathy, it was really difficult to find. You know, big surprise there. Prisons are full of them. But sadly, they're all walking amongst us, you guys. Yeah, you know what's interesting about this one, the 10, unaware of their impact on others socially. And I would say, like, unaware of their impact on others. I would say just in general, like, there's all different categories you could use, but they're like really out of tune. But a lot of the times, like, you won't see it or feel it or understand the things that are off about them until you get really far away from them, or maybe you take a little vacation from them, or you go visit your parents or your, I don't know, one of your old high school friends or something, and it clicks with you. Like, that's a little off. Like, I remember I was talking to this one person during my breast cancer treatment, and now I look back on it, it was weird. She's like, yeah, you're going through a lot of shit. But that's all she would ever say. I don't know that she was a narcissist, but, like, yeah, you could say that again. It's not really deep, that's for sure. Also, too, I want to add in here, like, be careful of other people that will defend stupid statements like that. Okay, let me see, where was I here? 11, feels entitled to exploit people. Huh. Like opening up a nonprofit that's not taxed and bringing in people to abuse. Spreading their information online, which is a HIPAA and a confidentiality problem there. They always have a need for somebody. They can't. Oh yeah, you guys, I'm getting tired. Let's see here, where are we? I just really, yeah, it's a lot shorter because let me see here. Yeah, it's a lot shorter because I'm running out of steam. Where was I here? I really wanted to re-record when it was fresh in my head, you know. Okay, yeah, feels entitled to exploit people. I mean, all day, every day. Vulnerable people, cults. I mean, we could go on forever. You know, you just got divorced, they're going to pounce. You just got out of a romantic relationship, pounce. They need a place to stay, you have an apartment, pounce. You have a drug or alcohol addiction, and they see that as a way to exploit you, pounce. You know, it's always the same. 12. Takes but won't share or reciprocate. Yeah, years ago when I was kind of like learning about people, like in my late 20s, I used to always say they're just users, you know, like they never shine around unless they have a need for you. Oh, now they're moving, they need you to help. And back then we didn't have the internet like we do now. I didn't understand what all these behaviors were, you know, like the bullying, the manipulation, the narcissism, the sociopathy, the dark empath, all these. I didn't know any of that. But I just knew that the only time they had a use for me was when I could do something for them. And then I just kind of would just back away slowly, or, you know, just kept my distance. 13. Other people's misfortune is their inconvenience. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and when you look back on those situations, you guys and gals, you guys look back and you're like, wow, remember when I was going through this thing and they were saying, like, you'll look back on it and they'll be saying like the most insensitive things to you, you know, like cruel, or just not even what is the word I'm looking for? Like, they won't even acknowledge what you're saying. Because what you say or feel does not matter. It really doesn't. Oh, you know what? I do have a good example. And I've brought this up online before. Years ago, I had an oral surgery. And I was young and naive. I'm trying to think. I don't know. 21 maybe, something like that. I don't remember exactly, and it was like a very extensive jaw surgery because my teeth were crooked, but it was the dentist and orthodontist. This is when I was in the military. They were willing to fix my teeth because, one, I had way too many teeth. I had to get 8 teeth pulled, and then they had to do this really extensive jaw surgery on me and bring my upper jaw up just a little bit to fix my bites. I've got screws in my jaw, and yeah. So if anyone listening to this, if you guys have had mouth or jaw surgery, it's very painful. And my whole entire face was swollen, black and blue. And I was on some type of medication to, you know, help me with the pain. And my ex just starts screaming at me that I needed to get up and go to my classes. And I just remember being, like, I always remember this, you guys. Like, at the time, I was just really confused, you know? Because a loving husband would have said, honey, just you lie down, I'm going to get you some tea, or, you know, comfort me. This person didn't have any of that. So always remember, when you have this, like, really confused feeling, that's your gut or your instinct telling you something's not right. "14. Treat service employees as personal servants." Oh, wow. You guys, that's one thing that will make me really lose my temper, is when I see people mistreating waiters or waitresses or whatever type of service person. I've got some pretty funny stories about that. I don't know. I must think I'm like Joan of Arc or something, but it just really bothers me, you know? But they will go out of their way. And I worked as a waitress amongst, you know, a million of my jobs. But they will go out of their way to put the waitress or the waiter down. And usually, you know, sometimes it could be one of the sharpest waiters or waitresses. And they will abuse them. Talk down to them, or ignore them. You know, all kinds of stuff. They have to assert that they're superior. And little do they know that we're all living in some big illusion. You know what I mean? The grand illusion. So, trying to think what else I wanted to cover here. So I just came back to the very original picture. I wanted to make sure I covered what I covered in the first video, but you know, the fuel inside of me is it's just flowing out of the window, and I'm going to go to bed early tonight. But honestly, anyone who is a bully or an abuser, it stems from very low self-esteem, because anyone who has to put other people down they don't feel good about themselves. And I would go further on this one. Talking negatively about others only reflects your own bitterness. I think it's even more than that. It reflects how you feel about yourself, because it's projection. We all of us project. It's just like this natural thing that we do. I do it. I try to be careful with it though, because you can project how you feel about the world, or how you feel about humanity or people in general, or your values and ethics. You think everyone's, you know, out to do good, to be good to other people. But that's not true. Just because you go on through life like that, like Jesus said, treat others as you would be treated, does not mean that other people are going to act like that. And I always say, like an abuser, a manipulator, a narcissist, a sociopath, all of those folks, they are looking at you, an empath, a kind-hearted person, as prey. And so, everything that I've been through in my life, and I probably get a little touchy sometimes, I will not ever let anyone abuse me ever again. Ever. And I've been saying this since I was young, you know, before I learned about the abuse part, but I came into the world by myself. I'll die by myself. I mean, I don't think I worded it like that. I'll die alone. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to find a really good guy to, you know, ring in the rest of my life. But, I mean, honestly, you do. You come into the world by yourself, alone. You leave alone. I don't know where I got that from, but I've been saying that for years. So, anyone going around talking badly about other people or negating what your experience was, you know, like a torturing fire that's covered something like 66,000 acres, killing wildlife, birds. As far as I know, no person yet, amongst all different kind of insects and hummingbirds, and I don't like to think about it because I'll cry. No one is going to negate me, minimize me, invalidate me, one-up me. I don't care who you are. And honestly, if you don't like me, just move around. My perception and intuitive and gut instinct abilities are just off the chain now. So I hope you guys were all able to listen to all this. I know I'm not at my peak, but I really wanted to record this one. I don't have internet today, which to me is fucking fabulous. But, you know, I could live without internet. I would miss all of you guys, but hopefully we'd be able to get in touch with each other. As far as I know, so part of the electrical grid is down, and that's why we don't have Wi-Fi. I could live without it all day, every day, but I have plenty of DVDs and books here, and I can leave whenever I need to. I have a gas mask if necessary. I was reading or listening somewhere to a scientist explain how I won't be able to articulate this, but how small the particulates are, because this is a really bad fire. they said that it's really dangerous when the gases break down. So I went outside earlier, but I would not be opposed to wearing a gas mask if I needed to. And I'm going to gift some, what do they call N95 masks to anyone that I can, and maybe some of the drivers and water and things like that. It's time to help each other. I hope that you guys found this useful and beneficial. I'm doing all right, one day at a time.